Hello and welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to be discussing a new mission type that I think would be really cool to add into the game. I don't know if it's ever going to be added into the game, and the devs have not confirmed that we're getting any sort of new missions, new biomes or something, but those are things that I would really like to see added more into Deep Rock, because the biomes that they currently have are really awesome and I would like to see more of them. And I know the reason why they don't want to add more right away is because they don't want them to all look or feel kind of the same-ish. They want them all to feel different, which is a great thing. That's actually really good for the game, I would say. I wouldn't want to go to basically Sandblast 2.0 or Sandblast 3.0, where it's basically still Sandblast Caverns, maybe with a few touches thrown around or something. The main thing I want to talk about in this is a new mission type that I've heard, and I don't remember exactly who pitched this idea to me, because it certainly wasn't me coming up with this idea, but the idea sounded really, really cool for a new mission type. And the new mission type would be called something like on-site brewery. So this is similar to the on-site refiner that we already have, where you set up pipelines and you have to pump the oil back to the station. This would be something similar to that. This would be something like the dwarves get a mission to go to a particular biome, whatever it might be, and their main goal here would be to brew something, whatever it might be. It doesn't even need to be like ale or whatever else the dwarves want to drink. It could even be something that is a little bit more corporate approved, or whatever you might want to call it, where it could be something else that the corporation is trying to put together. There is also potentially the issue of why would the corporation send the dwarves to go on a mission like this, and I think you could write around that in a lore sense, where maybe it isn't the corporation that's sending the dwarves, maybe the dwarves are doing some sort of mercenary type work for something else, maybe they're doing some freelancing, maybe they're doing something for themselves or for another third party that we're not entirely aware of. Maybe it's just a mysterious shadow figure that's giving us some of these other missions we can go and do that might not be technically corporate approved. There's plenty of ways you can work around this. The main idea for this one, though, is that you have to get all of your stuff similar to how the oil rig missions are, but set up a little bit different. You got to go collect so much resource so that you can actually start brewing this, and then you have to go find a water source, and maybe you got to go find a heat source. Drag pipelines to the water source so that you can pump water back, drag pipelines once again to a heat source so that you could force it in there so you can just distill everything right there, so you could be making whatever it is. Again, it doesn't necessarily have to be the alcohol in the game. It could be just about anything. It might be some sort of rare material or something else. Maybe corporate is trying to incorporate some sort of soft drinks or something like that to be spread out across the galaxy, wherever the heck you guys are, because where we are, at least in a lore sense, in Hoxie's, we're not even supposed to technically be here mining on this and getting materials. And I think it would make sense if you could find interesting, rare materials around there, which you kind of do with your secondary objectives. Why not add more, kind of weird and obscure plants, or maybe already keep the existing plants and give us some other options for them to where you can extract so much stuff, go and get things, but every time you do, it disturbs nests of bugs around there that clearly don't want you being there. Maybe you could have different types of bugs near different types of materials more often, or still just keep it, a mix of all the bugs. You could also even just use the bugs as ingredients too. That would be an option as well if you really wanted to. I don't think the dwarves would complain about that. And then, maybe you pump all this here and you have to set up some sort of, maybe another type of machine similar to something like Doretta, and have it be like a processing plant. Maybe it's like a repurposed Doretta shell or something like that, where it's for processing everything and like bottling or canning or whatever it might be here. And then we load it all up into the ship. Well, all of this is going on. Obviously, it's causing a lot of racket, so bugs are coming towards us. We have to defend the area. We have to defend our still. And then we have to ship all this back and then maybe wait for a drop pod to come in and get us. That, I think, would be a really cool mission idea, and I really like the idea of it overall because it fits so well. I mean, the two things that the dwarves really love to do, a couple of things that the dwarves really like to do: mine stuff, kill stuff, drink. That's basically dwarf life right there. Why not have that be a mission type? I think it would be a really cool idea. Another idea that has been going around a little bit that I think is also a pretty cool one, I don't know exactly how this one would work because I haven't thought about it as much. I think I've heard it much more recently, would be something like a loot bug wrangler mission. Maybe there's hard to reach materials that the dwarves just can't get to for one reason or another. You can make up the reason, whatever it might be. Maybe it's just super impractical for the dwarves to be mining this. Maybe it's just in very odd to reach places for them. Something else that's going on where you haven't found any way of getting to the materials itself besides the loot bugs. The loot bugs seem to know some sort of secret way of getting to whatever these materials might be, and they can absorb them and they can get them, and then you have to take them and place them somewhere else where you can process them to get these rare materials out. I think that would be a really interesting idea. You could still keep up all the same regular materials, still have gold, nitra, whatever the unique materials are around the map, but defend these loot bugs because they're trying to get these rare materials and there's just constant bugs coming in to try to harass them. Maybe make it so the loot bugs are basically invulnerable in this stage. Maybe not all loot bugs, but some specific set of loot bugs that are, so that they can go and grab whatever it is they need to grab from this rare material and then bring it over, and you just have to protect them. If bugs attack them, maybe they can knock the loot out of them, and then you could also imply some sort of reason as to why you couldn't pick up the loot yourself, whatever that might be. There's plenty of other mission types that you could do too. I think that could work in this game, but those are two that I've been kind of sitting on, and they just seem really cool in my opinion. I would really like to see them in the game. Obviously, there might be some issues with both of them, given different biomes or given different settings, however it might be. Because I can just imagine if you take the loot bugs to like glacial strata and maybe they can still be frozen, that might take forever. But I don't know. I'm sure there's, ways you could work around it and different things you could program in the game so they'd be like immune to cold or something like that. And then the last part about this I would like to talk about is just new biomes, because we haven't gotten a new biome in a little while. The last ones that we got, I believe, were the Hollow Bow and the Azure Weld, which the Azure Weld is one of my favorite biomes in the entire game. It's probably actually my favorite biome in the entire game. And Hollow Bow is not particularly bad. It can be kind of confusing to go through, and getting stabbed by stabber vines can be pretty bad too, but for the most part, I don't necessarily hate it. It's just not one of my favorite ones to go on. So having some potentially new biomes, I think, would be a really cool addition to the game. There is one option that I was thinking that you could kind of do in its own zone, where it's a mishmash of every biome thrown in there, or maybe it just grabs from different parts of a biome and then shoves it all in there, and just have it be explained by some sort of weird phenomenon that's going on in the planet itself, where for some reason all of these are kind of being warped into one another. So you might get parts of like Azure Weld mixed with Sandblast, mixed with Hollow Bow, and then mixed with like radioactive crystals or something around there. You could potentially do something like that, and I'm sure you could probably make a mod of something like that where it's just every biome kind of warped together, and maybe even have the bugs kind of not necessarily warped together, because then you have to make new models and everything, but just kind of erratic as to how they spawn. There's not really a set type of bugs in this area. You could also even do it with materials too. I imagine that might be a little bit more difficult, because you may end up getting way more materials that you would otherwise. You might get a Jadet's, a Pearl, bunch of crop, a bunch of Magnite or something like that, all in the same biome, and it would just be advantageous to go to that biome constantly if you need those things. That might be a potential issue, but I still like the idea of everything kind of being twisted and warped and melded together into something else, into some sort of bizarre like Twilight Zone. So tell me your thoughts on new biomes or new mission types. I think that we could have some extra ones. That would be really cool. Thanks everybody for watching this. I really do appreciate it, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I'll talk to you next time. Bye bye.